Oh, is this a different spot? Am I supposed to be here? Yeah. How's everybody doing tonight? Omar couldn't be here. He had a little bit of a mix up with time delay. So Omar's out doing a gig on the west coast of the United States in California right now, and I'm running the show tonight. So yeah, little different tonight. Austin's also busy as well, so I'm gonna make it the best we possibly can. California, yes, I know. I know you're in California. Yeah. We get it. But anyway, I do have an event guy tonight that's gonna come in and talk about some great stuff. And his name is Dave McBride. If you haven't heard about him, you're gonna learn about him a lot. We got him this week on the podcast side this week, and we will be having him on our Tech Talks on Monday to go through some more in-depth procedure of this. So, but without rambling on and getting into everything, we're going to go ahead and bring him in. So, Dave, how are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you, Bodie?
I'm doing good.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, by the way. I appreciate this.
Absolutely. I wish, Omar was so excited to have you on the show and bring you in. I wish he was here to obviously do this because he's like so excited for the show and so excited for the demo on Monday.
Okay. He's a busy guy. He's West Coast, East Coast. Never know where he's going to be.
He's like I said, it was just one of those I forgot about time difference things.
Yeah.
I'm like, you went to California, how did you forget about a 3-hour time difference? But hey. So let's go ahead and we'll start this. I'm getting text messages from the man himself saying the old background's intense. So let's see. Can we spice it up a little bit?
We'll
just go with this one.
Yeah, I have my wife's background here because she does a lot of Zoom stuff, body shop. So this isn't my desk. I just want to clarify that this is my wife's desk, but I'm happy to be using it, so that's fine.
Yeah, Omar's messing with me in the background. So let's. How did you get into AV?
So I got into AV back when I was in high school, and I took a television class. Actually, it was out here in Mesa, Arizona, called Mesa Votech. It was a vocational school. And I got into television, and I really caught that bug when I was young. From there, I went to college and worked in a news station and kind of worked up from there, and then realized that there wasn't a lot of money in broadcast. And so I saw what was happening in the early 90s over in AV, and I went, oh, that looks kind of cool. And they seemed to pay a couple dollars more an hour. So at the time it was like, oh yeah, instead of $5.25 is $7.25 or whatever it was at the time. And so I got into audiovisual back in the early 90s, worked for some great people, Video West at the time, many years ago, and still great friends with those guys over there. And so, that led up to eventually freelancing in 2000. And from that point on, it was a lot of spider work and E2 work and stuff like that once they obviously, launched around the 2005 when widescreen stuff started coming out. So I was always a video engineer / camera guy. And then I got into the high resolution stuff once I started freelancing in the 2000s and on from there. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So I don't know if anybody that's normally on Monday nights, you notice there's something different in my title tonight. Speaking of freelancing, I started my own business with freelancing, so it is now official as of August 13th. It's Biowolf Productions.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
So that definitely can feel into that. I kicked around doing things for a long time, worked with Omar on and off, and decided this is what I want to do. I enjoy every moment of it. I enjoy everything. We got some hot and heavy questions coming in. The one and only Mr. Omar wants to know, what does your shirt say?
Pixels are for squares.
Oh, I love that shirt. I think I've seen that shirt before too. That's
obviously
an awesome shirt.
It's a pixel joke, whether it was the old rectangle, NTSC, or pixel are for squares now. I love this. My brother got it for me a while ago. My brother is Rob Nimmo. If anybody knows him, shout out to him. He's in New York tonight doing a gig, and they have a storm blowing through up there. So Interesting.
Everybody's got storms, it seems
Yeah,
like. We had one yesterday come through, a nice one, actually.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
um, so Omar kind of leads into the next part of what I was going to ask to begin with. Um, so, for those that don't know, I have the link going in the bottom. Find out more about what we're talking about tonight at the website and the link scrolling through.
Yep.
What's your favorite media server? Why don't we start it off there?
My favorite media server, I would have to say that I think I really enjoy the eccentricness and the amount of power that is in a disguise. D3. I think that they really have put a lot of time, a lot of effort into what they consider to be. I mean, I kind of hold them up here when it comes to media servers. I don't have a lot of experience with some of the other ones, 7sense and Watch Out. Watch Out, I would put in there as maybe just under disguise in terms of like what you can do and how well it is user friendly in a sense. So yeah, in those senses, I think D3 is kind of up there at the high end for media servers, in my opinion.
Awesome. That's definitely awesome. Yeah, a lot of servers that commonly used, like you said, D3 Disguise. We
Yeah,
just actually had with our AV Tech Talk Summit, one of the members of Disguise come in. I'm actually taking some online virtual courses for Disguise and things like that.
yeah,
Super interesting. It looks like a lot of fun to mess with.
yeah.
And I do see a couple people. Hi, Dave. Greetings from Tucson,
Ah,
Arizona,
Sam,
from
Sam,
Sam.
Tucson. Hi, Sam. Good to see you.
And Fred Leiber said, looking forward to testing the Flex software. So that's getting a little bit ahead of the talk tonight.
Yeah,
But
that's
we'll go ahead. So for anybody that doesn't know, like I said, the link scrolling down at the bottom, we're talking about, if I'm pronouncing this right, Sonoran Video Systems tonight.
yep.
And that is, you created a video server, correct?
Cool.
So what happened that you decided to create Coyote?
So here's what actually happened is, of course, we just talked about some of the high-end media servers, and honestly, the Coyote doesn't. We're not really in that area. We don't call ourselves a media server. We consider ourselves a playback server, or in the broadcast sense, a play-out server. And so what really came about is me sitting in that chair doing Spider, doing E2, and seeing the way that a client server is supposed to work, and seeing a GUI that in the Spider sense was designed very well. Derek and Clark, those guys did an amazing job, and I sat in front of that for years and years, and I kind of looked over at playback and I'm like, why is playback so scattered? It's either 16 by 9 with a couple laptops, or it's high end, and there never seemed to be this middle ground. And I always thought, well, why can't you have 16 by 9 and do your widescreens in the same box? Why can't you have spanning that you want to go to 2 to 3 to 4 outputs, and instead of converting these all from laptops or from iMacs into SDI, why can't it all be in one box? And so that's kind of where the Coyote server came about. Is I just wanted to kind of really fix that area and make a great product. And the Coyote server is based off of the Kona 5. AJ, we looked at them in the very beginning, plus Blackmagic, and AJ hands down was the best card to go into that box. It had HDMI 2.0, so we could do a quad split multi-view out. It had SDI. It has AES out, but what we do is we built our own digital to analog converter, and we run AES into that, and then it comes out XLR. So we have a built-in XLR stereo channel 2-pair on the output. Genlock LTC, the card kind of had it all of what we were looking for when we first started creating the Coyote server.
Awesome. And you said we. Who helped you create the server or the program?
So when I say we, it was mostly my idea. I kind of started it just like scratching things down and doing what I wanted to do. Um, I had my brother help me on some stuff. There were a couple of guys in the very beginning that helped with a few things. But for the most part, it was me going and getting developers and saying, because I personally don't code, um, but I understand what coding requires and what people need to kind of what we need to do to communicate and to get the job done. Even before Sonoran, I had ShowPro, which was a great just little app that you could run for doing scripting and stuff like that for stage managers. So I had already dealt with software developers and things like that. So it was kind of just a progression over to say, okay, well, let's write this new one. Did I think it was going to be so intense and so hard and years? No.
I think that's the most common phrase when anybody says, "Oh,
Yeah,
we're going to create something." It's like
yeah. And
it's the coding that goes in it.
you look at
Network.
it, and you're like, oh, it should be 6 months and $50,000, $75,000. Yeah, no problem. Well, years later and much more, it takes you back a little bit and just goes, whoa, wow, this is crazy. But um, so that's kind of where when I say we, it was, it's also my wife, my brother and some other people in the beginning that really kind of helped me, get this going. But for the most part, it was customers and just friends and family and stuff like that really, helped kind of get this going. And now, of course, Daniel, my developer, who's on full time with us, we lost a couple developers, unfortunately, during the pandemic. So it we'll get back on track once we go. But Daniel has been my rock, and he's the one who is completing this new 3.0 architecture that we're developing right now.
Nice. Yeah, like I said, that's the most common thing I see when people are like, "Oh, let's develop this," and it's like, "Okay, who's going to do the coding?" And I'm a network. My background comes from network and IT engineering, and I'm fluent in Java, and I do some HTML coding and Python scripting and things like that. And it's like, okay, well, who's gonna do all of this? And I don't think a lot of people understand that when it's like, okay, we want to come up with this program. Okay, who's going to code the whole thing?
Right, right, exactly.
uh, so you mentioned coding, and you love the GUI of some of the other servers and systems of the video playback systems and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What other than the coding, what were some of the challenges you faced when you started doing this project?
Oh God. There's been a lot of challenges. I mean, number one, the biggest challenge is funding. It's trying to create a product and get a product going, and then you're bootstrapping it, and it's all coming blood, sweat, and tears out. That's what it is. It's hard. It's the hard work of staying up late and testing and more testing, and over the years as we get going, there's also a flood of ideas and customer input and stuff that we want to get to. And it's like, man, we would love to. If I had a team of 20 developers, yeah, we could probably go through this, but it eats a lot of revenue. So it's this fine balance of cost versus being able to also put out a product that we want our customers to be happy with and what we're trying to get out. So it's yeah, that's essentially how we are with that.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so obviously with any new project, especially when it comes to, a server of any kind, it's definitely financial resources and stuff like
It's
that. And I'm glad it was there for you, to be able to get that taken care of and get
Brody,
it all set up.
here's the other thing too. Another challenge, I guess I should just kind of I could keep going and going and going. I don't want to go too long, but one of the other challenges is just, it's trying to really find the correct platform and the correct user interface and the architecture. When we started with Coyote several years ago, I had a developer that was a contractor. Actually, that particular one was a contractor, and he kind of guided me into a more limited, closed world. And we realized after about a year or so, like the features that I was looking for and that I was asking out of the developers was taking a lot more of the resources. We had, like, our UI was based off of a web browser. Well, we, come to find out that it worked well for certain things, but didn't work well for others. So our new 3.0 is all based off of Qt. Qt is, I believe, Event Master is run off of Qt. There's several other types of user interfaces that use Qt, and it's a very flexible platform. You can now, we had trouble just dragging and dropping things in the old code. Now you can drag and drop and select multiple presets and hit take and do those kind of things. So that was the other challenge too, was really just finding out because the demands also grow, right? And so,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Especially with a playback system. The
it
demands
does.
of the user side wants to
Yeah,
do X, and you guys
right,
are listening
right.
to all your clients who are using your product and going, okay, well, that's a feature maybe we should look into adding, or
Yeah.
nah, we don't want to add that feature.
Yeah. And when we started, it was Kona 4, and so there was no 12G, there was no 4K, and it was only, you could do a quad 3G and make it into a 4K raster for a quad 3G, but we started it like that, and it was really supposed to be more of a simple project. But then the Kona 5 came out, the 12G was available, and so it grew and grew, and and then we were able to make, the changes that we needed to. Then all of a sudden the pandemic hit, and that's when it was like, oh, whoa, what's going on here? And
And I'm sure
so
your whole world changed then, because it
it
was
did.
like, okay, what can we do to make this usable during this time right now?
Yeah, exactly. And it was, honestly, for us, it just, everything stopped. And so it was very challenging. We had to leave our office. I had to let go of developers. We, scrambled, like I think most companies did, for, keeping people on staff and stuff like that. And it drained us. One silver lining, I hate to say that because the pandemic is tragic, but one silver lining for us is that we now all of a sudden had time that we could work on new platform. And
Absolutely.
so, yeah, and so for us, this new 3.0 is a world of difference. We are basing it off of the GStreamer decoding platform, and now, of course, Qt in our UI. So it's a whole new. We now have Rust and Python. We've gotten rid of a lot of C# code and stuff that used to be in there. So it's just a lot more robust, and I want to say it's more machine code like at the core. And so that's where we're getting, that's what we're moving to. But it's much more feature forward. When you look at the new architecture that we have a lot more headroom that we can move into as we start to develop this new 3.0.
So I want to take it back real quick. So we found out how you became into AV and the other systems that you had used and servers that you used. What was the real drive behind wanting to create your own playback server?
The real drive, honestly, was, I'm somewhat of a fix it kind of guy, and seeing that part of the playback areas being broken in such a sense that it's like, well, why is there software out there that doesn't work on these platforms? And we're having the challenge of having to do 16:9 on this system and then a whole nother system over here on this. And I wanted to fix it. Like, it was, it was part of me in here. Like, I loved the Spider when it was first coming out, but there were certain things in there that I saw that I'm like, well, this would be, what if these 344s and 240s were all in the same box? And then sure enough, they come out with the X20 and those kind of things. And I love seeing that progression, and I love seeing audiovisual get better. I loved seeing, like, when we transitioned from analog to digital, I loved moving into SDI. Like those things just, they really stick out to me. And I'm going, hey, this is the latest, greatest fiber optic now. Okay, cool. Now we're using LEDs. This is great. So part of me, what was just very intrigued in saying, well, I want to be a part of making, this playback area. And I love I love videos. I love I think that like that beautiful set that you see and that content that is created out there is just incredible. And I wanted to be a part of that. And that's kind of where this all came about.
Awesome. And Omar took the words right out of my mouth with the question that he just asked, because you're talking about SDI and the different things that constantly are evolving with AV. How do you like NDI, and do you see NDI a future into your playback system?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, NDI 5 is now in our 3.0. So we looked at that right away and we said, if we're going to build this new 3.0, it needs to be future ready. It needs to have these things. The great thing about NDI 5 is that it's open source, and
Yes.
and it's fantastic. It's
That is
great
for anybody who hasn't checked out NDI 5 or hasn't upgraded NDI 5 because you're worried about bugs or anything that's in it. I'm going to tell you, as a personal user of NDI 5 every single day on my Twitch stream, NDI 5 is awesome.
Yeah.
It's actually like Dave's saying, it's an open source system, so it makes it a lot more user friendly. I like the new GUI they came up with instead of having individual programming. So that's awesome that you're integrating the NDI right into your playback system.
Yeah, basically, and when we do the demo in a few weeks from now, I'll walk through and I'll show you guys how it is. But in the new system creator, you basically just select NDI and it mimics your SDI outputs. So, and this is all for the server. And once we get into Flex, we'll talk more about that. But depending on the hardware you have with Flex, you could have a single output SDI Thunderbolt and still run 4 other NDI streams. One of the streams would be SDI and NDI, and then you could have 3 other NDI streams. So essentially, the Coyote is 4 players. So it's kind of like, how do you want to use those players? Do you want one individual player per output, and you could say run 4 independent 1080s? Or do you want to take one player and span it across 2, 3, or 4 outputs? The choice is kind of yours, and that's where it really works well with, say, doing a background on outputs 1 and 2, 3840 by 1080, and then you have another 2 more outputs. One of them could be 16:9 for your standard playback. And then your output 4 could even be a 4K, because now we have mixed resolutions. So you're not stuck to just one resolution. You can have multi-format.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, so your output 4 could be 4K, and you could have all of your LED, pieces that fit around your LED walls everywhere. You could have that all rendered onto a 4K, and then that just plays out of that one. And they can be all independent, so you can loop your backgrounds differently than you can play, say, 16:9. But NDI is definitely, we wanted that in pretty much right away. So in the first, when the release is out, NDI is in there for sure.
Nice. So we do have a question that came in from Facebook, Brian Henry.
Hi, Brian.
Speaking of user interface, what's new and what's different on the user end?
So there's actually quite a bit new, Brian. That's a good question. There's actually quite a bit new compared to the old user interface. The new user interface, of course, uses Qt, but we were able to really step it up and make it. It looks more professional. It's designed more professionally, in a sense. If you can have multiple tabs for your presets now. We couldn't have that in the old one. It was just the way that the architecture was and the way that it was designed. So in the new one, and again, this is something that's kind of important too, that our playback server is designed as preset based. So you can play one preset that has background running, and then you can, go to another preset that has another background, or you can select another one that is for 16:9. Preset really gives you that awesome live interaction, that if you need to end something, you can end it. If you want to play another one in that output, you can, and you simply select it. If you want to link from one to the next, you can make a pseudo timeline. But we didn't want to go timeline based. Timeline is, we feel it's too restrictive for live. And we feel that you just get, you get a lot more advantage of having, this preset. So the new user interface takes advantage of that. You can now make a tab for all of your 16:9 videos. Then you can have another tab next to it that has, say, all of your 3:1 or 4:1 videos. And you can run those, separately. You just click on the tab, you can change them. The other thing too is in this new user interface, we've gone to a full 4 independent transport. So now you see all of your countdowns for all 4 players. If you have one player that's spanned across 4, then it'll show you that it's actually, hitting all 4 players, and you'll see the same, time there for them. If you have individual ones, you can select one of the players and then hit end. You can then go and select another one. And you guys will all be able to see this in a couple of weeks once we get towards that release. And it's but there's quite a bit of change in this new user interface, and I think the flow works a lot better. Oh, we also added we have a next panel that is in there, and it will show you once you click on a preset. Look at me, I'm clicking around. I wish I should have had my user interface here with me while we're talking about it. But essentially, if you select a preset, you're going to be able to then see it in a next panel. And then when you take, it moves over into the live panel. So it's this nice synergistic kind of workflow that you now are going to be able to see. We're also putting in there transitions, so dissolves are coming. And you'll be able to see what this video is, what it's going to do when it goes to live. So that's kind of this new user interface and the flow of it.
Wow, that's a lot coming in, and there's a lot of good things like that. I wish, like, you're putting in some of the things that I wish were in some of the playback systems that are out there already, like the the live, the transition peaking to show you what it's going to look like. That's the biggest thing for anybody. Anybody that does anything video related, when you're using vMix, TriCast, or any of these things that have a transition, and you use a custom stinger transition, trying to figure out the peak of where you want it to switch properly.
Right.
And it sounds like you guys are implementing that, where you can actually see that.
Yes.
And how it's going to come out. So that to me is huge.
Yeah.
Not only from a video guy standpoint, but from a Twitch user interface. Uses stingers every day on my stream. Like that was, I'll tell you right now, that was one of the hardest things for me when I got my stinger made, was putting it in and doing a countdown on it. Like I literally downloaded a millisecond countdown, so I can go, okay, all right, this is when it needs to go, and then time everything and set. It's like, I think my time for switching is like 322 milliseconds, like down to the second of when the perfect transition. So just having that ability to me is exciting to begin with.
And that's the other thing too that kind of brings up a good point, Bodhi, is that we're still designing this to be intuitive. We don't want you to necessarily have to go get training. That's not what our software is. We want you to be able to pick up our software, have it so intuitive that you can see that you've got to create, what your system is going to be, what your outputs are looking for, and then you move over and simply, select your plus to add assets, you add your plus to create a preset, and hit take. Like, we want it to be that simple. Of course, there's going to be some, slight small things to learn, but it's not going to be something that you're going to need to go to training for. And that also deals with Flex. So Flex and Server share 99% DNA. They're basically the same. It's just that Flex is going to work with your own hardware, and then Server is designed for our servers that we create.
And the comment that I pulled up from Omar, and I'll bring it up again. That comment, how I was talking about the transition, that feature is a huge, in my opinion, not even just big, a huge plus in the virtual side of things that are happening now. But you started talking about Flex Server and the difference between the Flex and the Server, and you started talking about the differences.
Yeah.
You want to dive into that a little bit more about what the
Yeah.
differences actually are?
Yeah, exactly. So essentially what happened was when we started creating the 3.0, we realized that we had this opportunity that customers had been asking us for a while, and that was to allow them to be able to have Coyote not just in a server that they can go purchase, but on their own computers. And part of it for a long time, the way that we had all of this designed is it was all designed based on our Kona 5 and our server and just the way that it was done. So what really kind of changed it for us is that during the pandemic, when we were looking at some of the new products that were out with AJA, Thunderbolt 3 was a big change for that. Thunderbolt 3, allowing more bandwidth and allowing to have multiple 3G streams across it, having Blackmagic come out with new products, having AJA have these new Thunderbolt 3 products and stuff, that really kind of clued us in to say, you know what, why don't we take the same new software that we're developing and then allow the users to essentially create their own server or their own computer with an output. The IO 4K, for instance, made by AJA is Thunderbolt 3. It's almost identical to the Kona 5. It has 4 SDI outputs. It's got Genlock. It's got LTC. It's got all of that. And we can take advantage of that. Now, once you put in our software, you connect your Thunderbolt 3, and you've got almost all of the same features as the server does. There's a few limitations that they have on that side, but for the most part, they're very similar. Or you can just use a Blackmagic single monitor 3G, which is a HDMI output for a local monitor and an SDI output for your professional output, is what we like to say.
Yeah, and everybody's familiar with those. So
Yeah, so you can throw those in, and then what we during development, we had a lot of comments from some friends and customers that said, Dave, why not PCIe? I've got Duo 2s and I've got Corvid 44s and I've got, all of these other things. And we said, well, yeah, of course, there's no reason why not. So what we did is we went in and we started putting in all of those other pieces of hardware. So we've got Duo 2, and because we already built the platform on for Kona 5 on the AJA side, the Corvid 44 is there. We're eventually going to go to the Corvid 88, but we need to add 4 more players essentially into that UI. So that's more of a user interface feature that we have to get to. But you'll be able to do 8 outputs at 1080 out of the Corvid 88. But really for now, we're really sticking with this, the user interface with 4 players, and then you choose your hardware. You have a Duo 2, a Corvid 44, or whatever you want to use. That's Flex. Plus Flex also has the NDI. So if you don't even have any hardware and you just want to run 4 NDI players, you can do all of the same stuff and just use NDI. So you get both worlds essentially in Flex. And so then the difference between server is just a box that we've designed for you based on the Kona 5. It can do dual 12G and it can do 1080s at the same time. Some of the other equipment that Thunderbolt 3 has and stuff, they don't. There's limitations, of course, on the bandwidth. Thunderbolt 3 is spec'd at 40 gigabits a second, but really, you may be getting around 20 or so. So you can't necessarily do dual 12G on that, but you can do dual 12G on the new Blackmagic 4K quad 4K card for, I think it's $675 or something like that. That's incredibly cheap. Blackmagic, I just had a discussion with them the other day, and they said one of the reasons why they did that is they're not looking at other cards and what those other cards can do. Is they're pricing it based on what it costs to make and what their margin needs to be. And they've got a quad 12G card for $675 or so. It's crazy. And Flex will work with that. So you'll be able to, if you've got the power in your machine, by all means, you can have quad 12G, or you can run two 3Gs and span across two 12Gs for a 7680 by 2160. And in fact, the server, you can do that too.
It looks like you've literally taken all the stops out of this and covered almost all the bases with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what we really want it to be one of these. We really want it to be user friendly, that you guys can sit out there and you can make your system as small or as big as you want it to. That's
Which
really
is super important. Which is super important with the way things are going right now in the virtual state and everything like that. Having that compatibility to not have this huge, massive rig to control everything. I mean, when I'm working from home, like I said, I Twitch stream. You know, when I'm not working, I have a huge desktop sitting down there, and then I run my laptop, and my laptop actually controls the stream, and my desktop's what I use for gaming. And just like right now, I'm using the desktop to control the stream out, and I'm using vMix to bring my camera in through NDI to you guys. So, I mean, it's just the compactness. When I go on a show, all I take is my laptop and my stream deck with a couple extra items, and that's what I go to on some of these virtual set shows. So having it compact is super. That's one of the key features, I think, in a lot of people.
And what we're doing, what Flex has, real quick, I'll kind of like give you an example of what the products are that we have for Flex. So essentially, Flex is going to have three products. There's going to be an IP one that we call Flex IP. It's a free version that anybody can download, no cost, just download it and put it in. It's a single stream NDI 720. That's what you like, and this will, I think, help a lot of people that are just wanting to do one player into their vMix or something like that, and not have to necessarily use the player that's built into vMix or have to use a whole another laptop. Like, this is just, it's free. You guys, have fun with it. But it introduces you to the UI, because the UI is going to be the same. It's just, it gives you one player instead of four. Then we have the HD version, so it's Flex HD. It doesn't do 4K, but it'll do 1080 all the way 720, 1080p. But you get four players, you get four NDI streams. You can plug, a single monitor 3G into it, and away you go, and you're rocking. Also, our license structure is set up for two computers. So we want you guys to have a primary and a backup. We don't think you should pay extra for the backup. So for us, we're saying, let's make it a 2-seat license, and let you guys, be able to put it on two machines. And then that way you feel, good about having two machines and not having to worry about buying another license for this one and it expiring. You can also, you'll be able to remove it from one and then, put it on another machine.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, look, and then again, like, we're on the same flow tonight, Omar. Like, that's huge. Let's go back. Fred Leiber had a really good question that I want to kind of touch on. And he asked, Codex, is 3.0 the Swiss Army knife, takes anything you throw at it, or does it prefer a specific codec?
So we are built, and that's a great question, because we get that a lot. Like, what is the preferred codec, or what can I run? Here's what we prefer. First of all, it technically is a Swiss Army knife. You can run ProRes, you can run HEVC, AVC, you can run VP9, you can run VP8, you can run HAP, those kind of things. However, certain codecs take more resources than others. So what we try to do is we try to say HEVC, H.265 is the preferred. However, if you want to run a ProRes and output 1, and then you want to run HEVC for your backgrounds out of output 2 and 3, you can do that. You can mix codecs and it'll work. Everything is based off of GStreamer. So whatever GStreamer has in theirs, and that's an open source, that's a third party that we've added, and we've manipulated it in such a way, that doesn't quite sound right, but we've added it, put it in, and tweaked it to work with what we need it to work for on the licenses that we need to, and be able to utilize the thousands and thousands of hours put into GStreamer and utilize, this beautiful big platform. And they have all of the plugins for decoding Apple and stuff like that. Plus, we're licensed with Apple, so we are allowed to do ProRes because we're based on it. Server is on a PC, and then the UI is on a PC. However, Mac is coming because of GStreamer and using Qt, those kind of platforms. We are now able to be multi-platform.
You
So
just touched my soul. For anybody that watches Tech Talks on Monday, I'm a huge PC guy. So like for me, like I'm huge PC. I can't knock anything Apple's doing with their new M1 chips. They're really powerful. But like you just touched my soul when you're like, PC. Like,
absolutely. So you're going to be able to do both if you want it on. If you want to download it, and here's what we're doing too, just so that you guys know. It's you don't buy just for the Flex side. You don't just buy the Mac version or the PC version. You're going to get licenses that can work on either or. It doesn't matter. So if you have two licenses, in fact, you could have a Mac M1 and then you could have a PC right next to it backing it up. As long as the power is there that it's doing what you guys need it to do, then we're not going to limit you on Mac only and PC.
I'm going to highlight this comment real quick. Sorry to interrupt you, because the more you go on about it, this resonates right here. Brian Henry said, you can always tell when live event guys do anything. 2-seat licensing should be standard for everything. Yes. And what you're saying right there, that you can have your one license can go Mac or PC.
Yes.
That's huge. That's typically unheard of. It's very rare that, vMix has a 2-seat license technically. You know what I mean? But they're PC only. Most things that do have licensing for them, you have to purchase a separate license for Mac or for PC. That you're making it standard with your one purchase. You have two licenses. So if you prefer, if you prefer taking your Mac with you somewhere to do something, you've got that Mac. If you prefer your PC at home because it's got more power, you have it at home. That's huge. And Omar, mind blown, game changer. That's unheard of to have dual licensing like that.
Essentially, you can go once you go and purchase it. You have it. We're also going to have a server that you can just go download it. However, you're going to need a license, so you want to go purchase it first. Once we have that all set up, you purchase it. Once you have that, you're going to be able to do updates and stuff through our server. So that's how that's going to work. But you are going to have the ability to have a DMG, put it on your Mac. Type in that license, and it's going to say, here you go. And then if you want to next show, remove it from that Mac, that license, but have it on a PC, great, put in your license and away you go. So it's really designed in such a way that we want it to be flexible. That's why it's called Flex. Besides the hardware flex, it's also flexible for you, the user, that we want you to be able to go download it, put it on the machines that you need it to run on. You also may have a machine, and this is, I got to find out from Daniel. I don't quote me if it's going to be in 3.0. It may be in 3.1 or so, but you'll have the ability that if one of your licenses is stuck on another laptop and it's on a truck somewhere, stuck somewhere, in Texas and on the side of the road during a snowstorm, that you can remove it from that particular machine just over the internet and then hit it and say, lose that one, bring it back over here. And now I'm on this show and I need these two laptops. And so you're going to have the license to be able to do that.
That's awesome. Salvador, yes, Resolume offers the same type of licensing. Absolutely. There are other programs out there that do offer the same type of licensing. It's just very rare and uncommon for typically a program to have licensing, because Mac and PC, as far as the coding side and the background side, can be technically different on both ends. And the way Mac only accepts certain programming code and PC only accepts another programming code. It's very uncommon. That's diving into the nerdy, geeky background side of why the same programs that are offered on PC aren't on Mac.
Well, and that's essentially, real quick, like how Event Master on Barco E2 works, right? Is you can run it on, you can run the user interface on a Mac, or you can run it on a PC, because they use Qt, very similar. That's what we're doing. So we designed it for cross-platform. We knew that we had to have all of the modules and parts and pieces and server Rust and Python and everything to be cross-platform, and that's how it really works for.
Absolutely, yeah. Qt coding in the back end of it and everything is definitely is becoming more common. Should I say is definitely becoming more common with programs. So I would not be surprised if a lot more programs in the future have a lot more cross-platform accessibility. So let's
well,
go.
And now with M1, just to let you know, the M1 is now in our latest beta. So, for people that are nervous about whether or not the new M1s are going to work and stuff like that for Mac, yes, they do, and they work very well. So the new ARM chips. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah. So we got about 15 minutes left. One of the questions I had and one of the questions Sam Goldsmith had. All that being said, when would you use a Flex versus a server? When should one be used versus the other? What is the best case use scenario for each of them?
Yeah, and that's good. That's actually a really good question, because some people kind of want to go, well, what is it? First of all, server is more of the professional front panel with SDI outputs designed for Coyote software, right? So it's got the 4 outputs, it's got 12G, you can mix the resolutions, it's got dual XLRs out of the back for playback. It has LTC, it has all of that sort of stuff. So your server would technically be for, say, mid to larger shows. Don't forget it's playback as well. So we're not talking about warping and all of that sort of stuff. Leave that to the media server guys. That's what they do very well. But when you're talking about, playback in sync, being frame accurate across outputs, files, those kind of things, that's where the server comes in. Now with Flex, you can run that on, say, smaller to mid shows. So I think you kind of look at it in that way. And if you don't want to, have a rack unit server that's a 2RU and stick it in a rack, if you would prefer to have just a desktop IO 4K or the Blackmagic Ultra Studio Mini 4K, you can. That's a 2 output. You can use that. You can use. We also have Extreme 3 is now Thunderbolt 3. So if you want something a little bit smaller, or you want to use your Duo 2 card, let's say these vMix machines that everybody has created and done, you may want to take Flex and put it on a vMix machine. You've already got the power, you've got the cards, you're essentially already ready to go. So if you want to build your own machine and have that, you can do it. They're great for, again, smaller to mid-size shows, I think, is really where Flex comes in, without having to get the bigger server from us.
Awesome. So there was another comment that I was actually going to ask myself. The questions are coming in great tonight. Salvador asked, what type of show control protocols is Coyote compatible with? OSC, MIDI? What can you use to control?
Yeah, so right now we have JSON control in there. We worked with the guys over at Universe, and so you can use a Universe controller. Of course, you can use. I'm drawing a blank here, but you can use Bitfocus's controller. You can also, we're adding in ArtNet, and then we're looking at some other protocols. ArtNet is a big one because there are lighting guys out there and different companies that are looking at us and saying, hey, we want to, run this off of the lighting control platform. So we want to be able to do this. We want to add this. We want to put those in there. So ArtNet is coming. We're also open to suggestions. If you guys, we want this to be a third-party protocol stream. Oh, the other thing that we also have is we do have a native Stream Deck app. So you don't, Companion, of course, is what I was looking at before. You don't necessarily have to use Companion. You can, because of the JSON controls and stuff that are in there. You can use Universe, those kind of things, but we have a plug and play with Stream Deck, especially XL, that works the best because you get the real estate. But with the server and with Flex, you simply just plug the USB in. There's a app under Tools that says Stream Deck. You turn it on. and sees it. It's basically like a mini console. You've got all of your presets lined up. And then you've got transport at the bottom. You can do your go-to tens. You can step through the 4 players, and then you can change. You can end one, you can play another. So all of that is built in. But we want you guys, once we kind of get this 3.0 out, is to tell us what you prefer, what you would like. And it's easy enough for us to say, sure, let's look at that protocol. Let's add that one in for you guys. But I know ArtNet and the JSON controls are big right now. We want to talk to more broadcast people and say, what are you guys looking for, and what would you prefer out there, and go from there. But yeah, we want it to be open for protocols for everybody.
Awesome. So one more question from the chat that I see coming in. Is there a alpha channel support? And that's from Brian Henry as well. He wanted to know if there was any alpha channel support for that.
So there is alpha channel support. It just depends on what, if you're playing an alpha channel versus, a key. Here's one of the cool things. If you have a cut fill rendered by your editor, the great thing about Coyote is you can play the cut out of 1 and you can play the fill out of 2. So you can do lower thirds and stuff like that. In fact, some customers were just using it recently for Virgin Galactic, and they needed to do that. They needed to have, frame accurate outputs so that they could do the cut fills. And then as far as the actual files having alpha channel, yes, you can run alpha channel. We haven't gotten into any, HAP alpha or anything like that. HAP is a very heavy GPU file. On the server side, we're mostly CPU. But Flex is going to be able to have both, that you can do GPU and you can do this, CPU rendering and stuff like that. One thing to also note too is that we will be adding a GPU upgrade to the servers that are out there, that a GPU can be added in, and then it can turn it into a quad 12G. So that's coming up later, but that's months away down the road. So we're not going to talk too much about that. But so alpha is, don't forget, it's frame accurate on these outputs. So
right.
That works in great.
So I just saw this, and so that wasn't the last question. The question that I just saw for Flex: do the machines need to be online all the time for authorization?
No. What we do is we do a report to mothership when you first obviously activate it. So you do need internet when you first put it in. But we know shows, and we know that you guys are going show to show, and you don't need to, do this, and make sure. We have talked about, after 6 months or so, doing a check back just to make sure that you guys, have the right license and those kind of things. But it's not going to be nagging, and it's not going to stop you or anything like that. We know how important it is on shows to that you're not always going to have internet and things like that. But it will. There are ways in there that you can have it, that if it does, if it does get online and you want to do an update, obviously when it does that update and it goes to our server, that it's going to check and make sure, okay, it is a valid license. We're not just giving an update to, any random, hacked software.
Right.
But as far as shows, no, we're not gonna bug you. Once you've activated, you're good.
Awesome. That's awesome. And then Fred Leiber asked, does it support custom EDID for LED screens, example for Barco E2 background server? So
Fred, this is a really good, this is an excellent question. And I'll tell you why, is because we don't do anything that's on the VESA platform, nothing that's HDMI and nothing that's DisplayPort. And we did that on purpose. We are fully based on SMPTE, so that's why everything that you see coming out of the Coyote is all based 720, 1080, 2160, etc. You can play any custom file you want, and you can play that out of a 1080 raster or out of a 4K raster or even out of a 7680 by 1080 raster. But we don't deal, we did it on purpose, that we don't want people to have to deal with EDID. We don't want them to have to deal with HDCP. we are an SDI platform or NDI platform, but all really based on SMPTE. So when people look at this and they say, "Hey, can I make a custom output for my LED going direct to an LED wall?" No, that's not how this box is designed. Of course, media servers are, because they come directly off of the GPUs and stuff. But we are focused on I/O cards, being SDI and things like that. Plus now NDI and eventually SMPTE 2110. So it's so there is no EDID to mess with. Most of the newer, I should say, maybe not most, but a lot of the new processors and the LEDs, they accept 12G, they accept 3G and stuff like that. So you technically can go direct to an LED if you want to, but really it's playback. So it should go into a switcher, it should go into a spider, it should go into an E2, and let those particular machines do a lot of the the custom files, custom outputs and stuff like that go into LEDs.
Awesome. So excuse me. This is great. So Rose Talk would be good for carbonite systems. Is that going to be something that's implemented as well?
Oh, Rostock. Yeah.
Rostock, I'm sorry. Yeah, Rostock.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Rostock, it would. Here's the thing with Rostock. They're very proprietary. Ross doesn't like to give up their protocol. We've been chatting to see what we can do. If anybody out there knows if somebody in Ross that allows Rostock to be put into third parties, that would be great. But as far as our research has gone, Rostock is really mostly designed for Ross products to Ross products. We haven't seen a protocol. We haven't seen the ability to take Rostock yet and put it in as a third party app into our architecture yet. But we will, if people let us know if Rostock is something that can be allowed, or if they're working on that for something in the future. But our knowledge is that it's very secluded for Ross. They don't give that out.
Yeah, some companies are very stringent with their third-party support and things like that. So I'm going to post in chat to find out more info. This is where you want to go, to the sonoranvideosystems.com. All the information's there. Where can anybody download any of these and demo it now? I know you talked about a Flex server for free. A Flex server that they can download one video channel free, right?
Yeah, and that's coming. So just stay aware. I'll stay in touch with you, Bodhi, and with Omar, and I'll let you guys know, and we can post it out on AV Educate. But essentially, right now, the beta is still on the server side. So server customers are able to take beta. We're in beta 3, launching tomorrow morning. Then within the next week or two, we're going into RC. So it's beta RC, which is release candidate. So that's going to have most of what we're looking at for the new 3.0. But really, the target that we've been wanting to hit is way back there. But the new target is up here, the beginning of September, to have the ability to take Flex out for a test drive. So yes, there will be a IP only that I'm going to try and release this IP only next week with the RC, because most of what we need for that one is already in there. So we don't have to, there's no licensing that needs to be put in and stuff like that. Really where we are right now is cleanup and then getting the licensing in for Flex. So IP can probably come out in the next week or two. But I'll keep you guys posted and we can put that in there. But really just kind of keep an eye out. We will do a big blast for everybody to let them know. And we do have some people signed up on our beta list.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah,
if you haven't, go to that website and try to get on that beta list, so that way you get the emails and the updates when they come out.
Yeah.
Real quick, I mean, this has been great. Everybody's questions have been awesome tonight. This has been a really good endeavor as far as with everything going down. Real quick, what's next? What's coming down the pipe?
So coming down the pipe, basically is, of course, get 3.0 out. That's our big thing. Get Flex out. And we're really starting with kind of a reliable, solid platform that you guys feel really good about. But there are definitely some future features that are going to be coming up. One of them I can just tell you that we're looking at about the 3.2 version is going to be any unused output, like say output 4. You'll be able to use it for as a director's view. So you can take one of the other players, pip it in output 4, put the countdown in there, the title and the progress bar, and you can put that in a downstage monitor. You can put that in, the director's view or the stage manager. So there's a lot of little things like that. Overlays are coming onto the multi-view that you'll be able to, and that comes at the same time with director's view because it's all part of that same graphics package that we're going to be putting in there. There's going to be a web server that you're going to be able to log into and view. You won't have any transport control, but you can view it. So that's another part of that director view. You'll basically be able to look at the UI and see what videos are up. This is great for stage managers that are working late and they don't have to bug the tape op for, all of their videos. They can see what's in there. Slates are coming in so that you can turn slate on or off. This helps stage managers and directors, of course, that they'll have it slate, and then as soon as you hit take, it goes away. So a lot of good stuff, lots and lots of good stuff.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like you guys have got a lot of work coming out for you coming in the future.
We do, but right now it's 3.0, and we are focused on getting this out in the next few weeks. So,
Dave, I can't thank you enough for coming on. Like I said, I know Omar wanted to be here for this, and but Omar, this has been an amazing talk that you set up and everything. So with that, if you guys are here now, I'd like to announce, and I'm sure it's up on our Facebook page already. On September 30th, we will be demoing this with Dave and his team. So come back on September 30th to the AV Tech Talks on Monday night. The link I do not have on me at this present moment because my computer locked me out of Facebook, so I can't get it for you. So I apologize for that. But I'm sure Omar, myself, or I can access it through my phone. So Omar, myself, or Ed will be tossing links into the AV Educate page. Definitely stay tuned for that. And when it comes out, I'm sure we'll hear more about the Flex, some feedback from the Flex beta test, and
everything with you guys. Once we have that in, and we'll show you how the UI is working. We'll show you how all of that goes, and then we'll also give you guys, the opportunity to test it, preview it, those kind of things. Even if you don't have hardware like a Thunderbolt 3 or a PCIe card, don't forget there's NDI in there. So you can always just run it to an NDI monitor, play them, check them, do those kind of things. Go from there.
Awesome. Well, Dave, it's been great talking with you tonight. I hope you have an amazing rest of your night. And I look forward to the talk on September 30th.
You got it. Okay. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
You too. All right, guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging with us tonight and learning all about the Coyote systems and things like that. So like I said, September 30th, we're going to have Dave and his team back to demo this product. So think of some questions. If you're not on the beta list, go to the website. I'll drop it one more time in the chat for you guys. So that way you guys can go there and check it out and get signed up for that beta program. Like he said, he's fingers crossed, hopes going to have that Flex out for the week. But we're going to end this out tonight, and we will see you guys Monday. You guys still here? Bye. Have a nice night. Later, guys. Thank you, Omar, for allowing us to do this and always bringing some awesome guests on. But no, this is definitely the end for the night, guys. It's been great talks, great being here. Love always coming on the podcast to fill in when I can. And thank you guys for coming out and checking out some Coyote systems. Have a good night.